Hey there, it's Robin, and you're listening to Healthy Habits for a Healthier Home. I'm here to help you create a healthier life, one simple shift at a time. If you're a mama ready to ditch toxins, clean up your family's nutrition, and build daily habits that support your well-being, you're definitely in the right place. Each episode is packed not only with education, but practical tips and tools to help you transform your health and your home without that feeling of overwhelm. So let's take this journey together to create a thriving, low-tox home for you and your family. If you're ready, say, I am ready. Now let's get into this episode.
Right, well, the way.
Hey y'all, welcome back. I'm super excited today. We have a very special guest, Dr. Virginia Marston Martinez. I'm really looking forward to diving into what a detox is, why it's so important, some of the pros and cons of detoxes, and some of the misconceptions, because it's a buzzword. It is very necessary. So I'm super excited to have her on, and I know you guys are going to take away a lot of 1% shifts. So welcome to the show. Thank you so much for coming on with your wisdom.
Thank you. Thank you so much for allowing me to share some of that wisdom.
Absolutely. So how did you get started on this path that led you to understanding more about detox and that made you dive into that aspect of wellness?
Well, first of all, probably the most impacting thing that really moved things along for me was that as a child, I always had dreams and crazy visions or ideas that I was supposed to be a doctor and that I was supposed to travel all over the world. Of course, all my brothers and sisters teased me. They laughed at me. They're like, yeah, right, whatever. You know, we're just welfare recipients. You're not going to do much with your life. So I ended up getting married and having 12 children. But my sixth child ended up having suffering of an anoxia. She choked on a piece of nut, wasn't able to breathe. She had a cardiac arrest for a good hour. She got to the hospital. Back then, there wasn't the cell phones, you know.
Right.
You know, everything was so different. And it did happen to be that I was in Mexico and Baja California, where it's a lot even worse. There's very, very poor communication there. So I ended up getting to the hospital. The doctors worked on her. She had no vital signs. For some reason, she started breathing again. But by the time that she came to, she had already universal brain damage. And she was pretty much in a semi-coma for 18 years. And I think that's where my journey started. I mean, yes, I went to nursing school. I had already learned a lot and understood since I was the age of 14. I started studying reflexology. I started learning a lot about health, herbs, and so on. But right when I thought I knew a little bit, you know, you think that you go to the medical establishment to find help. And of course, since I had been working in a hospital at that time, I had already known doctors. And so in my mind, I'm like, okay, everything's going to be all right. I'm just going to go to the doctor. The doctor's going to give me the pills and she's going to get better. And then, of course, months go by. The doctors are, okay, just so you know, she's only got 3 to 5 months, 6 months to live. Just prepare yourself for that. And well, I just didn't feel that that was going to happen. That's not, I felt that I was going to do everything I could. So what I started doing, I started traveling. I started reading every book. I started doing everything I could humanly possibly do to learn more. And of course, along that journey, I started realizing, oh my goodness, maybe the world that I've been a part of and working with isn't going to give me all the answers I'm looking for. So then that's what really got me started on studying. And because of the fact that she was fed with a feeding tube, she struggled to have bowel movements, she struggled to detox. And, you know, first they wanted me to put her on all these Pediasure, Pedialyte, you know, all these Nestle products that was just chemicals and, you know, processed sugar, processed milk, and trash, really. You have to understand that I tried everything they told me to do. I went down, and of course, she had seizures at the beginning. So, you know, I tried all the different seizure medications and so on. And none of that worked. It just didn't work. And I would try to explain to the doctors, listen, I did that. She's worse. She's worse. No, no, no. You just need to give her more medication. I'm like, no, because there's so little of her here as it is that if I were to give that to her, she would just be sleeping 24/7. And quality of life is that. So slowly but surely, I started studying and learning. And I mean, it's such a long story because she lived 18 years, and 18 years
Which is amazing.
very, very, very difficult because there was so much more to things that I ever could imagine when it came to her hormones, when it came to her structure, her lungs. So everything that could happen, I think pretty much did happen with her. And I had to learn how to understand hormones, how to work with osteoporosis, how to work with scoliosis, and then with all the different feeding tubes. Eventually her scoliosis became at 110 degree, collapsing the entire lung. So we had to put her on a ventilator. And that took me into whole other. So, but as that was going on, I already had experience working in hospitals, working with sick people. So for me, it was easy to just tell the acupuncturist, hey, can you just tell me how to do the acupuncture needles so that we could help my daughter so I don't have to get in a vehicle and drive an hour to get there, right?
Right.
I slowly but surely started learning these things. And along the way, I had another 6 children. So that kind of taught me even more so, right? My daughter, while she was living, I still was studying to be a naturopathic doctor. And then she passed and I was able to finish that. And now I run a clinic where we are detoxing people from all over the world. So that was kind of our journey.
First of all, thank you for sharing your story. I think everybody's story matters. I think that it's impactful for somebody who's listening to this podcast or knows somebody that it would be impactful for. And that's the beauty of podcasting, getting our stories out to other families and mothers that are experiencing similar, same, maybe different, but still understand. And I think together that's how we rise. Thank you for sharing that. When someone gives you a prognosis of your child, to have that gut feeling, right? To have that motherly instinct to know that this is not going to be the case for our child. I think any mother who sees their child suffering, who gets that feeling, goes on that deep dive. And some people, it gives them a longer lifespan. Some people, it may not. But for you, not only did it give her way longer than what they gave as a prognosis, but you were able to learn so much through her. And I do believe that we are given children to show us and teach us things that we would never otherwise learn at that deep of a level. I know that the patients that you work with, that connection for you with those moms is so much deeper because you've had such experience with your own children.
Absolutely.
So I think I would like to, I know not everybody's child is going to have what happened to your child, but where in the span of her life did you start to realize that the food wasn't feeding her well, right? The things that they were offering you were not the tools that your daughter needed, nor is it really the tools that a lot of kids need when they have a chronic illness or something that is permanently wrong with them. How did you start to discover that? And then what did you do to swap things out? Because you were going against the grain, if you will. And for a lot of moms, it's very scary to do that. You listen to everything they say because you think they're trained completely through. But when you have an experience with your child and then you realize that's not the case, it just opens up a world of curiosity for a mom or a caregiver to start exploring different things. So I would love to hear a little bit about that for you.
Yes, well, I think it was almost a whole year of her having seizures, of her vomiting a lot, being constipated, and just constant struggle that I finally met someone by the name of Dr. Patricia Kane. She specializes in disabled children. She has her own protocols that she uses. Amazing, amazing human being. And I was so blessed to have her come to my kitchen and actually teach me how to make these foods. And to the degree that she took me to stores and said, look at you buy all of these vegetables, they're organic. You buy this meat, it's organic. And we got organic goat's milk. And slowly but surely, we started making purees and blending them and making them so that they could go through her feeding tube. And we basically took all the sugar, all the processed, all wheat, all corn, just all of these processed grains were eliminated from not only her diet, but from all of my family's diet. And it was a real eye opener for me myself, because I thought I had been eating clean almost all of my life, especially like with my second son. He had an ear infection for 4 years. She tells me, hey, all you have to do is just take them off of wheat. I'm like, oh, no, but I've got organic wheat. We grew this wheat. This is clean stuff. Oh, no, she says, and she's literally, I took him off of the wheat and his ear got better. I
That's
mean,
crazy.
incredible. Like, how is that even
What an
possible?
experience for you.
To think that I knew a thing or two, you know what I mean? That wheat was organic. So now I understand that, of course, but slowly but surely I started adding new things to her diet. I started learning about supplements and adding the supplements. And most importantly, I think that when you have a neurological, hormonal brain injury, now I understand that if you want to recover or to help heal these areas, you absolutely need to have a high fat diet. And that's what we ended up doing with her. We ended up using a lot of, like, for example, what we call balance oil, phosphatidylcholine, and primrose oil. And within days, her seizures completely stopped.
Interesting.
That was incredible for us. Then I started learning about the ketogenic diet. Well, I think that what happens is that since we were able to do her labs and find out exactly what fats she was deficient in and what fats that she had an excess of, for example, arachidonic acid or whatever different types of fats that are in the chemistry that we could have too much of, that has to do with probably like not good fats, in other words. And I learned to understand what the good fats were and the bad fats, and what the processed fats do to the body, and the importance of the liver. You've got to have a clean liver, since the liver does 500 to 600 times more work than all the different organs put together. We have to be able to keep that clean so that we can absorb, most important, and when it comes to the nervous system and hormones, we've got to be able to absorb our fats. If we don't have a clean liver, you'll take these fats and you'll just be burping them up and you won't feel good. So that's kind of what was happening with her. Then I started learning to clean up her liver. I learned how to make sure that I kept her hydrated. I started giving her some enzymes, some ox bile to help her break down the fats. And truly, I saw a very, very big difference within like 2 weeks.
So for an average mom who's listening to the podcast today, since you have had 12 children and also, your daughter with a disability, what would you say to a mom who was trying to take a step in the direction of creating a healthier home lifestyle? What would be 2 or 3 tangible things that they could start implementing today that you think, when you're starting down that health journey, is the most important to getting your kids operating the best that they possibly can? I know there's a slew of things, but if you could just narrow it down to give them.
What I tell every parent is the usually the big 5, and that's the wheat, the sugar, the GMO grains. I make sure that they have plenty of fluids, because a lot of children, they'll drink like a cup of water and fluids, and make sure that they have plenty of good fats in their diet. Just that in itself will make a really big difference.
When we think about children's foods and how they're marketed to children, and the ultra processed foods, they typically have the wheat in it. They typically are high in sugar. They typically have those trans fats or the hydrogenated oils or things that are just really not healthy for us. If you're listening and you're wondering where to start, I would just start with the top 2, making sure they're hydrated, and then, ditching some of those processed ingredients.
Here's one thing that I tell all the parents. When I'm working with a parent, the first thing I'll do is, what does your child like to eat? Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Okay. So they like to have pancakes? Great. Let's give them pancakes every day if they want them. Just make them, for example, we soak our garbanzo beans and blend them up with pecans and put some eggs and honey, and that's it. We hand out recipes to all of our patients so that they can.
I think that's right there. You're hitting something, because a lot of people don't know how to cook. because they just haven't cooked, because we came from the generation, our parents cooked most of the time, and maybe you went out to eat one time a week. It's like completely reversed. Now maybe you get one home cooked dinner and people are just on the run and eating out all the time. And the convenience of the food in the grocery store that's packaged seems like a great idea. But really, in order to have the pancakes, in order to have the waffles, no one's saying you cannot have those. You have to know what the ingredients are if you're going to buy something in the grocery store, but it's not that difficult to start cooking again. And I think the invitation back into the kitchen for moms, dads, and kids is an important message for health and wellness in general.
If a mother's not willing to be in the kitchen, well, then you're obviously going to have to rely on somewhere that most likely things are processed. So what we do is we give out the recipe books, and we, again, because I had 12 children and had a lot of things going on, I would just get like a chicken and put it in the oven with vegetables and cover it up, and that was it. I didn't have time to do anything else. I'd get a pot roast, put it in a big, huge crock pot, put the spices in, leave it in overnight. Get beans, cook them in a slow cooker again, leave it in overnight. I didn't have time to do all that other stuff. But it's amazing what you could do with all these foods when you just simplify everything.
You don't have to be Martha Stewart. You just have to have good, healthy foods that can cook quickly.
That's right. So the way that, for example, we bake bread, we just put the two cups of pecans, 2 cups of garbanzo beans, 2 tablespoons of honey. We put 1/4 of a cup of coconut oil and some aluminum-free baking powder. Put it in a blender, blend it up. It all this takes the max, I mean, from 5 to 7 minutes. You put it in the bread pan, put it in the oven, and you're done. And
it's funny you're saying that, because I have a 19-year-old and she's home for the summer from college, and we were doing what is faster. Like, people say they don't have time to cook in the morning, like breakfast, so they run through a drive-through, right? And so it's like, if you to the time it takes to get in the car, to go to a drive-through, to sit in the line, to do all of the things, we timed it, and you can literally make eggs. We made eggs that day. We made sausage, and we made like a parfait. It took us 7 minutes to do that. That's less time than it would take you to get in the car and go through a drive-through. And so I think it's a lot of reframing and flipping your mindset around what convenience actually means and how it affects your health. I love the idea of your clinic, people coming to you to learn about the detox. And I love when I read that you go down to the cellular level. So I want to talk a little bit about the buzzwords of the word detox, that a lot of people just throw people on supplements and things like that. And I believe there's a place for everything. But if you're going with the Western mentality of, oh, they're just going to give me some pills, I'm going to take it, I'm going to be detoxed, that I think is where the not correct information is getting out there, and you're not really detoxing. So could you talk about what a true detox means? And then we can kind of get into how you guys do it at your practice.
Sure. So what a true detox means is a person's decision to make changes in their life. Because we don't just become toxic just because. It just doesn't happen. It's because of our habits and us wanting to be able to make life easier by going to a restaurant, supposedly, right? Well, you have to make up your mind that this is what you want to do. And once you've made up your mind, because what tends to happen when someone's like, oh, I just want to take a pill and I just want to do this. Once you start talking to someone like that, you'll have to, I need to just get from them, I mean, do you want to do this or not? I'm not in the business of convincing people. I just
Correct.
want people that are ready for this. Number one is that they're just going to be willing to make the lifestyle changes. They don't have to go crazy. Start introducing things slowly and find out what your children like, and start finding different ingredients to make the same thing. So once you're able to achieve that, it's a mindset, then it's not that big of a deal. There's different levels of detoxification, because when I look at someone's eyes, I could read their eyes and I could tell if their liver, their gallbladder, again, these are the number one places of elimination for our body. If those are plugged, if your liver and your gallbladder are congested, you can take any pill on the planet. I don't care what it is. You're not going to get very far, because A pill isn't going to fix it, especially if once you supposedly take this sequence of vitamins and detox pills, you go back to your same lifestyle. It's almost like, the meaning of insanity, right? So
Yeah.
the whole idea is to just be able to look and people in their mind, they think it's hard, but it really isn't hard. It's not. It's just the time that it takes, just like you said, that it will take you to get ready, get in the car, go to the store, go shopping, get in line, pay for it, come back. By then you would have 2 loaves of bread in the oven. You could have, and again, we're really into bone broth. Really, we make the 16 quart bone broth containers. And
Awesome.
really nice is that when you use all those bones and you've got all this broth, that broth can be the base for all of, if you want to make organic brown rice, quinoa, instead of using water, you've got the brown rice. We use it just to blend it up with avocado, put some electrolytes in it, and you've got to go to work to make everything really easy. And really cool about this is that we don't buy oils anymore. We get the tallow, we get the fat, and we put it in containers and we put it in the refrigerator, take the fat out, and then we have it by our stove. And we always have everything to fry potatoes, to whatever it is that you need to make. And it's just so much easier. But again, once you have that routine down, at the beginning, it takes time to learn how to think different. Once you get that routine down for yourself and for your children. I used to make 5-gallon buckets of granola, organic, everything. Just made my life easier.
Yeah. We've been conditioned to think restriction. We've been conditioned to think fat is bad. We have a lot of conditioning from our generation that has to be undone to provide health and wellness for our children going forward. And bone broth, when our moms were cooking, they would take whole chickens with all the stuff and they would make it, and that was the gravy. And then, my mom didn't necessarily make bone broth, but those things were in the stuff we were eating. And then fast forward to the convenient world we live in, you're not getting any of that because you're not doing the cooking at home. So you're just getting, if you buy like a rotisserie chicken, let's just say pre-made, you're not getting the goodness from it because you're just getting what's given to you.
Honestly, you don't even know what you're getting anymore.
Well, I wasn't going to say that, but you're correct. It's very hard to know. And I think people are intimidated by buying a whole chicken and putting it in the oven. I promise you, I'm definitely not Betty Crocker. It takes 2 seconds to get a whole chicken, season it, put it in the oven with the vegetables around. It's a 1-pan meal. And then you just let it cook. One of the things, because I'm a huge advocate of ditching the dyes, food dyes, and I was working with a mom earlier this year, and she was shocked to find out that our grocery store's lemon pepper chicken had yellow dye in it. And she's like, why would that have yellow dye in it? And I said, great question, because they're trying to make it look a certain way, and they've taken it to a point where it probably really wouldn't look delicious or taste. It's more look than taste, but they're making it yellow because that's what lemon looks like, but you're not getting lemon, you're getting fake lemon. It was a cool experience for her to discover that on her own. But when you're cooking at home, you don't have to worry about that because we don't put dyes in our food when we're cooking at home.
That's right.
So with the detox, a lot of people hear through social media, through reading books, through watching documentaries, things like that. But there is something different about healing at the cellular level and not just detoxing your liver. It's more of a holistic view when you're getting down that deep. So could you explain a little bit about how you guys in your clinic do cellular, like get to the cellular level?
So probably the most important part is that we never go to that level until we first clean out the number one pathways of elimination, right?
Love it.
Your gallbladder, pancreas. Once that's cleared up, then what we do is, depending on what we see, where the toxins are, let's just say that someone has something going on in their pancreas. They've got a major congestion. They're really struggling to produce pancreatic enzymes. So if they have scar tissues, if you have any kind of scar tissue in your abdomen or in that area, you're going to slow down the way that organ functions.
Okay.
If you have a tooth infection, every one of your teeth are directly connected to an organ. Now, if you have an infection under that tooth, you always have to take into consideration what's blocking it. Why is it just a diet? Is it maybe you were in a car accident and you hurt your back and damaged the vertebrae that's sending the energy to the pancreas? So you have to look at things, and when you want to get to a cellular level, you need to look at that, because you're going to open up all of these blockages that are taking place from injuries, from tooth infections, from scar tissue. Once you've been able to eliminate and get that, then you can go in and it's important that a parasite treatment, when you're talking about eliminating waste on a cellular level, well, the parasites actually live in our body because the environment is appropriate for their existence. If we have a bunch of toxic foods and so on, they would have no interest in our bodies. They really influence the way that our mind works and the way that our brain detoxes. So first you have to open up that energy, get everything moving, then you go in to get rid of the parasites. Now, here's really important. People will do parasite treatments and see that, well, maybe they're only having one bowel movement a day or one every other day. Well, you can't do that. That's why you first get the digestion and everything moving correctly. Because if you have a parasite that dies inside of you, they're going to be decaying. They're going to be releasing all the heavy metals and chemicals that they've been living off for years, and they're going to spread it back into your body again. That's what a herx pretty much is too many toxins got released and your body wasn't able to eliminate them fast enough. Therefore, you get this histamine, you get this mast cell, you get this reaction, right? So what we do is part of detoxing on a cellular level actually has to do with parasites. And I want to say this because this is so important. The word parasite, look it up in a dictionary. The word parasite means a pathogen that lives off of a host, period. What is a pathogen? Bacteria, fungus, mold, candida. I mean, you can go on and on. That's all in our body because the toxins are there to provide the perfect environment for them. So that's why you eliminate a lot of that stuff out of the way to weaken the parasites and the bacteria and so on, so that they don't have anything to live off of. And then you go in and start getting rid of the parasites. The parasites are the ones that have more heavy metals than probably anything else. So you've got to get rid of them. And when they die, they release these toxins, and then that's why people have these ups and their downs. Their ups, oh, I got better for a while and so, and I just did antibiotics and I did this and I got better and then I got worse again. Well, because they don't understand that when they're going down that rabbit hole of antibiotics and toxic medications, what they're doing is they're getting all the pathogens to mutate and run and hide in their biofilm. And then they're waiting for you to stop taking your pills and waiting for the coast to be clear, and then they come back out. And then they're attacking. So that's what this is all about, the ups and downs. When you get rid of the parasites, you're making sure that the clients are having bowel movements. Now, if they eat once a day, they should have one bowel movement. If they eat twice a day, they should have two. And this is during the detox. It's absolutely crucial. If they're eating 3 times a day, they need to have 3 bowel movements a day, because you've got a lot of things that have been killed and they need to find their way out. So
I'm going to back up for just 1 second and talk about the pathways being opened, because if somebody's new to this conversation, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's typically through urinating, having a bowel movement, and sweating. Is that correct? Okay. And then absorption, because that's something I have dealt with. And so I'm just curious from your lens. For me, if my pathways are working properly, sometimes I still find myself not being able to absorb. And so things that I should be absorbing nutrient wise, then my nutrient panels don't come back where they should be for somebody who would be absorbing. So where does that fit into a detox?
So what tends to happen is that when a person is very toxic, they're blocking the pathways of where the pancreatic enzymes are coming through, the bile is coming through. So it takes time sometimes, even after you've gone through a detox, to truly get all the way into deep into the liver, gallbladder, pancreas area, and get all those ducts unplugged. Once they're unplugged, now the liver is supposed to produce 1 liter of bile a day. But if it's congested, it's not going to produce very much. Same thing with the pancreas. The pancreas is producing the pancreatic enzymes. So malabsorption really just means is that there needs a little more detoxing to allow these organs to produce the gastric juices that you need to absorb your food. If you're not absorbing, it's because you're not producing enough of these gastric juices. And if you're not producing enough of them, it's because something is blocked, something is congested.
Gotcha. Makes total sense. So in your experience of working with patients and taking them through all of the things we've talked about, what are some of the chronic illnesses? What are some of the different diseases that you've seen people heal or at least improve by doing this with their children or for themselves?
Oh, wow. I mean, again, because we always emphasize that we don't work with diseases, we only work with the body, but do know that most of them are very advanced Lyme cancer, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's. And when you think about it, our clinic is pretty far out in the middle of nowhere. There's not 5G, there's no stores, there's nothing here. There's no chemtrails. It was pretty amazing. We have a very clean environment. All the foods here, we have our own cows, chickens, goats, ducks, geese, turkeys, you name it. And most of our food goes to our patients. So we create this environment for them to come and be able to detox. So
people come and stay at your, okay. And how long are people there for?
Again, because nobody wants to come this far unless they absolutely have to. Most of the people are like, well, we don't want to go all the way down there. And it's in Mexico. And they're like, oh, we hear about these cartels. And we don't have any of that stuff. I mean, it's like saying, I'll go downtown Los Angeles and spend the night there and see how you're going to feel. Yeah. So I'm sure that there's places, here we're incredible. It's such a peaceful place. But people come all the way down here and they say, well, I'm going to die anyways. Unfortunately, that's pretty much what we get, which I don't like. It's so much nicer to not have people that are coming so advanced, but we're here to serve, right? So we do get very advanced cases of everything that you can possibly imagine. And because of the fact that we make it clear, we tell everyone, we don't cure you, we don't heal you, we don't fix you, we teach you how to do it. They are drinking the juices that are making them have the bowel movements. They're taking all the discipline required to eat right and take care of themselves. They're taking all their pills for their parasite treatments and so on. So, but yes, we don't have any limitations as to what type of people we see. But I will tell you, for some reason, Lyme is, wow, we get thousands and thousands of Lyme patients from all over.
It's very interesting because that wasn't really something years ago that I even had heard of. But I think in the recent, I don't know if it's just what I surround myself with now that I'm hearing about, it just seems like there's a lot more people that are being diagnosed with Lyme, which I think is interesting.
Now, can I just tell you, when I tell the patients, I mean, they come in with diseases and most of them, I don't believe they even have those. I think they just put those labels on just so that
100%.
Out of everything. For example, I mean, a person, I just tell them, listen, what you have going on, like, for example, let's just say that you have toxicity. So that's the number one reason why people get sick, right? So if it's in the liver, you have cirrhosis of the liver. If it's in the thyroid, you'll have issues with your thyroid. You'll have hypothyroidism and then hyperthyroidism. If it's in the occipital area, it's going to be most likely Alzheimer's. If it's up in the frontal lobe, it's going to be most likely Parkinson's. So it just depends where the toxicities are and the pathogens are. They have special names for it. I just say they're just toxins and pathogens. We just need to get rid of them. So
right, and I love that. I mean, we come from a society that had to figure out what we could call something so that we could capitalize on it. But to separate things out, I do believe as a whole human being, it's just figuring out what is off when you are labeled with something. But I just know that there are parents that their kids are being diagnosed right or wrong with certain things that then they want to be put on medication and things. And I tried to help parents to do the work in the house by, revamping what they're eating, what they're feeding, the soul work they're doing, that kind of stuff to create a different atmosphere for them. And not to say that they will never need medication for something, but maybe it's not particularly that thing. I think we've got to come at things from a different mindset. And that's really why I wanted to have you on, because I think we have to reframe looking at things as sickness, but it's our body really giving us a message that something is out of balance, out of whack. And 99% of the time, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's due to some toxicity that you have built up over time. And these kids that are sicker than ever, it's because their little bodies are coming in contact with so much more toxicity than we did at that age. And that is a driving force behind the chronic illnesses that we're seeing and the food industry and all of the other things. But like you said, there's no chemtrails where you are, like all of those, the 5G, all of those things matter, but nobody's talking about those things when you're talking about kids' behaviors and kids not feeling well and kids being overweight and things like that.
Yes, absolutely. That's the biggest thing is that I feel that because everyone has just been so conditioned into thinking, like, for example, as soon as I say the word flour, like to bake bread, right? The first thing is wheat flour, white flour. It's like, no. The Indians in the United States, they used to get pine nuts and grind them up and make bread and make tortillas out of them. You go to Turkey, they have things that are made out of lentils.
And everybody's body is different. And so some bodies can take certain things, some cannot, but whatever you're feeding your body should always be in its whole
correct
form or come from its whole form and not ultra processed to get to that form. I think that's our food industry that has created a mess for us. Thank you. And, it's undoing those things. And again, some people might be able to have the pine nuts and the other thing you were talking about and make it that way. And other people can create a wheat, grow it themselves and not have a reaction. It just, I really do believe it's a bio-individual thing.
Absolutely.
But the whole food is the most important without all the other additives in it.
That's exactly right. Once you're able to make your meals out of that, the chances of any of all of these allergies, rashes, brain fog, behavioral problems, no doubt about it. And this is the thing that's the most important. I always tell a parent, pay attention to when your children get, they get, some of them get violence when they start.
Explosive behaviors.
Yes. Pay attention. If it's a full moon, just know that 100% they're full of parasites. And you've got to look into that, right? So
that's an interesting point that you're making. And I just have to wonder if pediatricians are even trained on that. I would guess not. But people are, when someone hears that, they're like, what are you talking about? A full moon? How does that even do with, because there's no education out there about it. And honestly, for me, it didn't come till about 5-6 years ago when I was investigating something and I was like, what is up with this? And, they always say, oh, it's a full moon, your kid's behavior's off. And it's like, why is their behavior off when there's a full moon? And I started doing some research and I was like, that's wild that they could have parasites or probably do. And I feel like most of us have some type of parasite in us. And I think, again, what a disservice is we've never been taught how to detox, right? Because you are going to come in contact with things. It's environmental, it's out there. You're not going to be able to scathe by not. But if you're 50 years old and you've never addressed it, well, that's just going to wreak havoc on your body.
Yeah. But unfortunately, we've done a lot of research on medications and different things that the kids are getting, or the humans are getting exposed to. There's spores in so many things that we're eating. I mean, spores are the eggs where parasites are born. It's pretty incredible how oblivious so many parents are of the medications that their children are taking. There's got to be research. Find out what those names mean.
Right. They're oblivious because they haven't been educated. I believe education is the number one thing that we have to continuously do in order to make change so that we can empower parents, mothers, fathers, children as they age to start making better decisions for themselves. Because without education, you are in the dark. And then you just put all your faith and trust in this one being that went to school for so many years or so many hours and know nothing about that particular thing. So I think diversity and diversifying who you see and the things that you use as modalities for healing is also super important. But
And
that's a change for a lot of people.
but the nicest thing of all of this is that we could use our own food.
Yes.
Have to turn to so much like the supplements and all. I mean, yeah, that's helpful. There's no doubt about it. But I mean, how do you pick and choose out of these thousands of supplements what you need when all you could do is eat clean organic food that, I
Well,
actually.
and the other thing about supplements is they're not all created equal. And you have to, just like food, you have to read the ingredients. You have to know if they're third party tested. You really have to read up on the companies to make sure they're creating things. Otherwise, you're paying for garbage a lot of the times. And people just don't, oh, that didn't work. Well, it probably really wasn't whatever it said it was either. And so, again, it's can be overwhelming. And that's where I feel what happens is there's just a great shutdown because you try, you don't see anything, you feel helpless. And so then you just shut down and go back into the chronic system, basically. And so for moms out there that might be listening and thinking, this is so much, right? This is so new. This is so overwhelming. Where do I even start? What would be one piece of advice that somebody could leave today feeling like, okay, I feel confident I could start here with our family?
Well, obviously it's the food changes that need to take place. And also, I mean, to me, I will not even let a parent walk out of my office unless they understand also. And I don't want to make it more complicated, but the phones that the children are using, the smart televisions, we have them, unplug them if you're not using them. If you have the Wi-Fi anywhere near anyone, it should be as far as you can from anyone, and turn it off. Have a switch so that at a certain time it comes off. All of that really, really affects the child because you could eat perfectly organic, healthy food and make all those changes. And if you are exposed to all this EMF that's really messing with this electrical system, this is an electrical system just like that is, and it's
Mm-hmm.
all the time. Those are the things that you've got to pay attention to, get educated on, and of course the changes in the diet. Try to use food that's not processed.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to hit on the EMFs for a second because um, I know the thought that goes through a lot of people's minds because it once went through mine is, how do you do that? How do you live in 2025 and not have these things? And it's not about not having, it's not about not using them, it's just using them in a different way. And so, for example, at home, before we had Wi-Fi, right? Before we had wireless, everything was plugged into the wall. So if you were using a computer, if you were using, it was all hardwired in. And so my practitioner said she has everything hardwired. And I thought, how did she do that? Like it seems so archaic. And I was like, oh, I thought in my head, the next house, right? Like I just was like, and then one day I woke up and I'm like, just call and see. And it was $50. It was $50 for AT&T to come and hardwire. And so we have laptops, but basically you just run the wire and it plugs in your laptop. So it's not a big deal. And I'm like, okay, it's my 1% shift, right? Another 1% shift is I have, the EMF protector on my phone. I have the little bags that they can go into, and just really training myself, no phones, airplane mode as often, unplugging all of the things in the house if you're not using them. It's all those little tiny efforts that nobody really knows about. But if we can just get on board and do those little tiny things, it makes a huge difference. Because if you think in a household nowadays, everybody has a laptop, almost everybody in your family, kids all have iPads and or phones. I mean, you're talking, it's not just one computer in the home anymore. So it's so much in such a small enclosed space. So anything we can do in our homes and there's lots of companies now making things to block some of the EMF to help at least. So I think it's going to be a topic that's going to start coming up a lot more because I do think you're going to get a lot of health issues from being exposed to it if it's not already
Well,
happening.
one thing I want to share with you is that
Please.
we used to have Wi-Fi. We used to have all of our smart televisions hooked up to Wi-Fi. I mean, it was so much easier, also we thought. But we really did notice a drastic difference in how the patients healed, how fast they detoxed, and how a lot of activities went away. And I thought, oh my goodness, this is pretty amazing. So we went all out. Everything is grounded. There's zero Wi-Fi on the property, and we have scalar devices everywhere to protect the patients from EMF, so that they could detox faster and down so many issues.
That's a very interesting observation.
One thing I wanted to go back to with the cellular level, we always have to do, there's a sequence. We do the detoxing, cleaning up the liver, gallbladder, pancreas. Then we get into the parasite treatment. Once we see that a lot of that has been eliminated, then we go in with different substances intravenously, or even, simple things like CDS, EDTA, and all of these could be given to children, could be given to adults safely. You know what I mean? And of course, all of our patients that do come and stay for a while, they all have PIC lines, and these PIC, we just give them all the whatever. Because here in Mexico, it's very different. What we're doing here, half of what we're doing here, you wouldn't be able to do in the United States.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
Easy. It's amazing how much we get accomplished. And I don't know, it's just awesome because you feel like you're just in a home and you're visiting with a lot of other people, because there's a lot of patients that come in and they're visiting. They're all, one thing that I require also of the parents when they come and they bring a child with, let's say, I don't know, autism or depression or on some kind of anxiety pills or so on, I require that all the parents go into our kitchen and watch the cooks cook. And they'll see, these cooks are feeding, 25 on up people a day. And they're doing everything as simple as could be. It is so awesome how everything is so well organized and again, because bone broth plays such an important role. The salads, we have our greenhouses here. We just go pick whatever's in there. We have green drinks. The patients can go and pick whatever they want, and then they bring it in, and then they'll make a green drink out of it. So
I love it because it sounds like your establishment is healing, but it's a teaching healing. And I think when you're connected to your healing process and not just given a pill or a supplement or a protocol, I think the connection, I think also the same with food. It's like when you start cooking your food, cutting your food, smelling your food, the connection to it just creates a better health journey for you. And I love that you do that because I think it's important while you have the parents there to get them going in a different direction so that when they do go back home, they'll at least have their foot dipped in to where they can see possibilities of what is, what their household could look like.
That's right. I'll take it just a little step, and I won't take too much time. But one of the biggest things that we see a lot of times is when children or young teenagers come in, a lot of times the parents are like, oh, well, we're just going to send our daughter over there. We'll pick her up, in a couple of months. And I'm like, oh, no, that's not that easy, because the children, they're like, oh, something's wrong with my child. And I said, sweetie, I need to talk to you.
Right.
When there's issues with the children, I always tell the parents, go look in the mirror. That's the most important thing to understand. Where is that coming from? And what role do we as parents really play in that? And so we do special therapies here as well that help everybody understand their role. Sometimes we'll have children playing the role as the parent. And sometimes we'll have, let's say, a divorced mother and the father disappears. So the older son thinks he's the father and he wants to control the whole household. And, all these things that are taking, they create disharmony in a family, and people lose who they really are because they're playing the role of someone else. So part of healing and detoxing detoxing is important because you not only need to let go of all of your toxins inside of your body, but all the toxin relationships, all the toxic belief systems that keep you sick. So that's part of it. It's not just it's quite a bit. And sometimes we'll see patients that come in and I'll like, no, this is an emotional problem. They're not even toxic. They look amazing. And I'm like, okay. And we bring them in and we just have a session with them. We do family constellations. We do different types of therapies here to just help everyone understand who they are, what their role is, and literally just sever all of the entanglements that they have the right to choose to not be a part of. They could honor them and know that's my father, that's my mother, I love them, I honor them, but I choose not to carry this role that has been imposed onto myself. You know what I mean?
And that's everybody. Let's be honest. I mean, that's everybody that's grown up in a family dynamic. I believe that everybody leaves the family nest and carries something with them that was never really theirs or meant for them to carry. But for whatever reason, their personality, their perception, their whatever happens, because if you talk to siblings, I think it's very interesting, and you talk about an incident that's happened within a home later in life, one sibling could be like, well, that was nothing, right? And the other siblings like, that crushed me for my rest of my life, you know? And I think we forget, though, that healing is not just the food. I know it's not just the food on your plate. It's not just the movement, but it's all of the primary things. It's those relationships. It's your career. It's, are you true to yourself? It's finances. It's spirituality. It's so much more than what we've been conditioned to know. And that's why I went back to school, you know, to learn more about the primary side of things, because I think that's almost, if not more important than what's on your plate. Because again, you could be eating all healthy, organic, and all of this, but if you're in strained relationships and you're still going to be sick, like you're going to have, your body's still going to present with ailments, whether it's gastric or ulcers or whatever. I mean, it could be that migraines, whatever, but it's, your body's still not healed because it's telling you something. So I think I love that you have that as a component for your practice, because I think, again, it sounds like an amazing experience. Even, I mean, I don't have any chronic illnesses, but I'd love to come for a month and just see, you know, because what I have found is there's always work to do, right? There's always work and healing to do, whether you come from a severely dysfunctional family, a dysfunctional family, or what you consider to be normal. It's all dysfunctional in some way to some people. So that's been my journey the last kind of decade, is just unraveling some of these things that were not harmful in a way, but for me, I processed them in a way that became harmful for my health.
Completely understand that.
So it's a wild journey. It's cool, but I love what you're doing. Your story, having 12 children, first of all, I bless you so much, because I have 2 and I don't know how I don't think I could do 12. But there was a reason why God allowed you to have 12 kids, and maybe they're somewhere in your practice, maybe they're doing their own thing somewhere else, whatever, but through your experiences and having them really has led you to where you are today, and that you're able to provide and serve people who need the healing at a very deeper level. So I think that's an incredible, like, your story makes so much sense now that now that we know you a bit more. So thank you for all that you do and the practice you created. Where are you located, so that if there is somebody who's listening that's interested, they would be able to, obviously her information I'm going to put in the show notes, but just where's your practice and all of that?
So our place is called La Luz Wellness Center in Chihuahua, Mexico. We're in the Galeana. We're in the Municipio de Galeana.
I'll put the website in the show notes also, so that you can click and find out. She's on Instagram. She's a couple other places. I'll drop all that in the show notes as well. And before we leave today, I always ask all of my guests for a few non-negotiables you've put into practice from a long time ago to even just recently that you feel helps you to live your healthiest, best life.
What helps me is thinking about what is it that I really want to accomplish in my life. Now, if I want to sit down and watch soap operas all day long and eat bonbons and just, don't kill yourself trying to make yourself feel better,
Right.
because A lot of people don't do that. But if you truly want to make a difference in life, and if you want to have children, if you want to be there, be present for your children, do what it takes to get educated and take care of yourself. Because if you're a parent, you need to be present. You need to be there. There's a lot of parents that are in the house, but they're not there. You're at work because you have to, you're not present. Really make up your mind. You have to make up your mind. What is it that you really want? And what are you willing to do to accomplish that? And
choice. I love that. It goes back to the detox. It's a choice you make.
Everything's going to be fine once you know what you want. And then if you want to sit around and watch TV all day long and do nothing, at least do that, and without killing yourself, that you could have, would have, and should have. Make up your mind what you want to do, and then just do it.
I love it. I think that's great advice. And I love that you live by that. And it's a non-negotiable for yourself, thinking about how you can serve others or where you want to go in your life, and staying true to that. But I really love that you keep hitting on the choice. We have a choice of what we want to choose. But when you're a parent, you're more led to choose. You should be more led to choose to create the best version of yourself, to be the example for your children. Yeah. So if you're dabbling in that, this would be a great step or shift for the week, is put intention around what you could do to create that 1% shift in your wellness journey, so that you can show up in your best version for your kids, for your family. And that will ripple eventually. It is a ripple effect, and it does go to the kids when they see you modeling those behaviors. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I would love for you guys to comment, share this episode with another mom or family that might be interested in something like this, because together, if we come together and we share things, we will rise and really take force in a world that's a little bit cuckoo right now. So I hope everybody has a good week, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thank you so much. You take care.
That episode had so many great takeaways. I hope you feel inspired and more empowered to make small 1% shifts on your wellness journey this week. I'd love to hear what resonated with you. If you want to leave a review, share your thoughts, and let me know how you're going to be implementing these 1% shifts into your life. And don't forget to subscribe and share this episode with another mama who could use a little wellness love. Want to stay connected? Join me on Instagram and Facebook at Live Life Balanced with Robin. Check out my website at livelifebalancedwithrobin.com for more resources, and grab yourself some freebies while you're there. Until next time, I hope you find peace, love, and light by breathing, being present, and allowing for all possibilities to come your way. See y'all next week. Love to y'all.